Hello and welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you are so inclined. In today's video, we've got another headset match. We've got the Logitech G Pro X wireless gaming headset, and that retails for around 180 USD. And then we've got this from Razer, the Blackshark V2 Pro wireless esports headset, which retails for about 160, so close enough and they're both best in class. However, this is an esports headset, this is a gaming headset. Anyway, let's get into it. In terms of the overall mic quality of both of these headsets, I am testing this using what's known as broadcaster mode within the software. Now the software is only compatible on PC, but given that these headsets are predominantly aimed at PC gaming, for that reason alone with the software, I figured why not take a look at that. Now, with the V2 Pro, like I said, I am using the broadcaster setting. There is a broadcaster setting on the G Pro X as well, which we'll go into when we get onto that, but let's give it a go.
As you can hear, it's a very nice, robust and rich sounding microphone. I'm very impressed with what Razer have come up with here. The actual hardware of the mic itself is lovely. It's a super clear hypercardioid or something along those lines. Very markety name, but it is good. I kind of like it. I'm not going to go massively in depth as to the actual spec of the mic. I'm sure I'll probably have it up on the screen, something along those lines, but ultimately this is what it sounds like with broadcaster mode on. So there you are. The mic is pretty good.
Again, as stated, I am in fact doing the mic test for the G Pro X using PC. Broadcaster mode is turned on. You do that by simply enabling the Blue Voice software for this, because the mic itself is a bit aged now, so the software is required. But
as you can hear, it does sound okay. It sounds kind of rich and it sounds kind of full, just like the other. However, for me, it doesn't have quite the same punch as the Razer mic. Now, the Razer mic itself, that super clear hypercardioid yada yada, it does sound better. It's that simple. I mean, you can judge for yourself by listening to it on this. And as stated, I do have the software turned on for both of the mics that I've done this test on. So on console or Mac or Switch, you wouldn't get this at all. It'd just sound like the standard mic. Now, I can tell you without testing it that the mic on the Razer does in fact sound better in its raw state than this does. But it doesn't sound bad, guys. It doesn't sound bad at all. But there we are. There's the mic test. For me, I'd have to say the Razer does take this. I just feel it's better. There's more to it. There's more oomph in the background of it. And the hardware itself of the mic is clearly better on the Razer than it is on the Logitech. The software on the Logitech, however, from Blue Voice is probably a bit better for the mic, but not all round. I'd say the software itself is kind of samey between the Snaps and the G-Hub. But there we are. There's the mic test. The Razer takes it. Now this headset, as I mentioned in the standalone video, does come with THX spatial audio and does sport what Razer call Triforce drivers, which is magic, where it separates a single item into 3 separate sections. But it does sound pretty good. I'm mocking, but it does sound quite well. The directional audio is pretty good. The difference in sounds, which gives that very good range of distance, is also pretty solid. But let's have a listen, and do read the disclaimer at the bottom, please. Now the sound stage for this is pretty good for a gaming headset. There's definitely a great depth to the audio itself, and the separation between the various audio signals that are coming through is pretty good. You can definitely pick out the highs and the lows and definitely the mids that come shining through. Now the G Pro X have a lower frequency response range than the Razer. These are just the standard 20 to 20,000 Hz frequency response range from these 50mm drivers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It does keep it remarkably clear and concise, and the audio is very natural sounding with very good separation, but you lack a lot in terms of oomph and overall volume. You can get third-party software to make these louder, however that's just affecting the gain, which then starts to detract from the audio clarity somewhat. But let's give it a bit of a listen, but again, read the disclaimer at the bottom, please. Much like the V2 Pro, you can change the equalizer settings within the software for this in the G-Hub, but the out-of-the-box audio is pretty good anyway. It just lacks in that volume, and in that respect alone, For me personally, I have to give this one to the Razer. But again, audio is subjective. But for me, the Razer takes it.
Now in terms of comfort, this is quite a difficult one to call, because they're both remarkably comfortable headsets. The Logitech, for instance, you can change the ear cups to your liking. This does come when we get to the actual accessories, but you'll see you do get a different set of ear cups for these, or rather the padding for the ear cups. But either way, with the leatherette, they're very comfortable. Once they're on, you can barely feel them. As I said, they come in at 375 grams, which is quite a good weight, but you don't feel it. The way that the padding works across the top, it distributes that weight load really quite nice, and they feel snug. And the clamping force is around medium, but they do feel nice, but you don't feel like you can't wear them for long sessions, because I did, and they work just fine. Yes, with the leatherette you do get a bit of heat build up around the ears, but it does encase all of that sound, which just makes it sound better. Now in terms of the Razer, you do actually notice the 50 grams in weight when you put these on, because you can barely feel these. As soon as you prop them on your head, you barely even notice that they're there. They're so light, they're so comfortable. It's like, I don't know how better to explain it, but for me, I find the Blackshark V2 Pro superior in terms of comfort to most other headsets. And this round has to go to the Razer. They're just more comfortable. The lightness helps. Everything about these just feels remarkably comfortable. So for me, in terms of comfort, Razer takes it. In terms of the design of both of these headsets, there are some very, very remarkable similarities to the two, so we'll just get them out of the way first. These are both the classic headphone design, just a headband with the ear cups coming off the side. They both have exposed wires connecting the headband to the ear cup itself. They both pridefully have their branding emblazoned across the top. Both of these headsets have oval-shaped ear cups, and both of them have all of the control on the left ear cup only. They both have detachable microphones, which are both keyed, so you can't put them in the wrong way. All very lovely, but let's get on to what's not so similar with these. So we'll start with the way that you actually size the headset itself. Now, I've mentioned in the actual video of this, which I'm sure is popping up on one of these sides before, the way that this actually works is it's just friction. You have these two sort of spindly metal arms that come out at the side of the headband itself, and you just slide the headset up and down it. It uses friction to hold its position, which may have issues depending on temperature, because the metal of these will expand and detract itself at a much quicker rate than the plastic itself. However, I've had no issues with these. Every time I've used them, I've not had an issue. I sized them once and they just stayed there, so think what you will of that. Now, as I said, the ear cups themselves are oval shaped, and they do have padding on the inside of the ear cup, which is very nice, but does add a bit of bass. It does mushy the sound a little bit, but nothing major at all. But let's have a quick look at the controls on this ear cup. Like I said, they're both on the left-hand side. You have this massive volume knob, which you can't miss, which I very much like. It's easy, very easy to find. This does have a 3.5mm aux cable jack just at the side of the headset itself, so if you do lose charge, you can just wire in. Next to that, it has the micro USB charging port. At this amount of money, I would have expected Type-C. But anywho, let's move on. You have a mute switch, which is just a depression switch, which has a little bit of green here to let you know that you're not muted. That disappears to let you know that you are. And then the power button, which you just hold down for an unspecified amount of time until you see the blue light of joy and you're good to go. But anyway, let's move on to the Logitech. We'll start again with the way that you size these up. The arms that come down from the headset are far more traditional with this, and you can hear it's very nice sounding how you get these into size, and it does have a few little lines on there so you know how to line them up for yourself. Again, the ear cups themselves are oval shaped, which is good. The shape of my ear is not round. However, there is no padding on the inside of this, so if your ears do get on the inside, like mine do, you do experience a little bit of pinching. As I mentioned, these are 50 grams more than the Razer. I'm not sure why. I'm guessing it's the use of materials that's pushed it to that. Now, I don't want you thinking that that makes it more uncomfortable or harder to wear, because it does not. These are very, very comfortable. Both of these headsets have a generous amount of padding on the underside of the headband, and both of them are very, very rigid. In terms of the actual controls, again, as I said, they're all on the left ear cup, which is very good. However, on this, you do have a Type-C charging port. Hooray for Type-C. All very lovely, so fast charging is definitely a thing with this headset, which is good, because unlike the Razer, you do not have the 3.5mm aux cable jack on this. So once your battery goes, it's gone. However, you can use them while charging. The on-off switch is an actual switch on this, which I very much appreciate. Not sure if that picked it up on the mic, but you don't have to hold this down for a silly amount of time. You simply slide it so you see the blue mark, the green light comes on, you'll know you're powered on. All very lovely. The volume knob on this is an infinity wheel, and it's not like a big bulging knob that sticks out of the side like it is on the Razer. However, it is nice and easy to use. The one downside I found with this, as you turn the volume up and down, when you stop, the volume still moves down or up, depending on where you're doing. So being accurate is actually really quite difficult. And then you have the mute switch at the top, which again is just a depression switch. Switch it in, you're not muted. Unswitch it, you get a little red mark there, and that lets you know that you're muted. On both of these headsets, you do get a tone to tell you that you're muted as well, because you don't get a light on the end of either of these microphones. But there we are for the design. They're very similar, but quite different in some respects. And I'm a big fan of both, if I'm honest. And this coming in at 325 grams, that coming in at 375, they're both in the range where you're not going to notice that much difference at all. And the weight difference is simply down to the design itself. But they're both very lovely. They both feel strong. They both feel robust. They both feel very well built, which they should. These are the best in class for both of these types of headsets from these specific brands. So there we are. In terms of actual overall build quality and style, I'd say these are a draw. The style itself is subjective. For me, these I prefer the style of. I like the aviator style. But what I like isn't necessarily what you like, and these do not look ugly in any way. They are a very, very pretty headset. But there we are. Very nice. It's a draw. So what comes in the box with this $180 headset other than the headset itself? Well, straight away we get this, the obligatory paperwork. Now, if you do need to consult the manual for anything to do with this and you have internet, just go to the website and use Control F. It'd be far simpler than scrolling your way through all of that. We then get this, the carry case, which has become a staple with Logitech. You get this same carry case with the wired version of this as well, which is, by the way, £100 cheaper. But it is quite a nice carry case. It won't protect your headset from taking smashes and crashes, but it definitely will protect it from dust, maybe a bit of moisture, because this is definitely a man-made material. But it's rather nice, and you do get the G logo pasted across the front. All very lovely, all very lovely. We then get the mic. Now this mic is detachable as mentioned, and it is pretty much the same mic that came with the wired version of this. Now the wired version of the G Pro X is at least 2 years old, and there's been very little innovation with the microphone itself. Now all of the goodness from this microphone is brought to it by this, the wireless receiver / sound card. Now this is a nice bit of kit, as we saw earlier when we did the mic test. You can change a lot of settings. You can change it for the audio, you can change it for the mic, and that's all very lovely, very good stuff. Then we get the replaceable ear cups. As I mentioned, these are more of an airflow material, and they also have left and right pasted on the inside, so you can't mess that up, which is also a nice little touch from your Logitech. Well done with that. Now, as I said, you do lose a bit of that sound isolation when you are using these. However, in the summer, even here in the UK, these might actually come in very, very handy instead of the leverette. And last but not least, we get the Type-C charging cable. Now this is not a braided cable, but it does feel very robust. And more importantly, it is Type-C for that fast charging, because as again mentioned earlier, what we are missing here is that 3.5mm cable. It needs to charge quick if you can't use it uncharged. But there we are. That's pretty much the stuff for the Logitech. All very lovely. Let's move on to the Razer. We'll start straight away again with the obligatory paperwork. Again, as I said with the Logitech, if you need to discover anything, go to the support page on their website and use Control F. It'd be far better than this. Although you do get a little note from the owner of Razer. However, very lovely that a corporate person would send me something. Very nice. Anyway, then we'll move on to the mic. Now, unlike the Logitech, this mic has been created for the style of headset specifically. And look at the size of that. That thing is absolutely huge, brings in a lot of audio and also isolates quite a bit as well. Definitely recommend using the pop filter at all times with this, but it is a nice little microphone. Now it is sort of ripped on the design here, so you do get quite a lot of flex with it. Not so much as you do with the Logitech, but you do get more than enough. And as mentioned, it is keyed, so you can't put it in the wrong way. Very, very useful. We then get the carry case. Now, not so much a carry case. Now, this thing will definitely not protect this from any bashes or crashes, anything like that, and it is purely a dust filter. It's very thin material. It feels like you could just rip this apart. Now, there are a couple of identifying features on this. It does actually say Razer embossed down at the bottom here, and you do have these wonderful green for go tassels coming off there. Razer's wonderful, wonderful style. We then get this, again, slightly smaller than the Logitech, but this is the wireless receiver / sound card. Again, much like the Logitech, we've seen this in the actual mic and audio test, that this does have quite a lot of features you can change. Does make it sound very robust. You can change the mic settings and individualize it to yourself. much like the Logitech, all very lovely. Then we move on to this. It's a micro B charging cable. Now, I'm not an advocate for micro USB anymore at all. Type-C definitely has a much better function. However, if they did have a lot of these cables available, they may have used it to keep down the cost, which does keep this cheaper than the Logitech. So on that respect, I can kind of understand it. Now, if it didn't come with this 3.5mm cable, I would have been annoyed because this does not offer fast charging. However, as said, unlike the Logitech, you can just wire this headset in. Should you run out of charge and you just need it, just quickly bash this into your computer and listen through. This also offers up different levels of compatibility with different things, much like the Xbox, where you can just wire this in to the controller. If you do that, bear in mind you're powering the headset via the battery in your controller, so probably not that great, but does in fact work. All very nice. The cables are also braided, which is all very lovely. Sadly, however, for the Razer, it doesn't come with any spare ear cups. The ear cups themselves, or rather the padding for the ear cups themselves, are nice. They are an airflow material, but there's nothing else there just in case these break. You can buy replacements, I'm sure, however, they don't come in the box like they do with the Logitech. But ultimately, for me, this is a draw in terms of accessories. There's nothing that stands out on either side of these, other than you do get this. And if this had been a Type-C, then this would have won, simply because of this cable, but it's not. So where we do lack on the Logitech by not having the 3.5mm jack, we do get Type-C fast charging. That evens it out. They both have detachable mics, very lovely. They both have these. Now don't get me wrong, this is slightly smaller and a bit more refined than the Logitech one, but it still has it, and they both have a carry case and the paperwork. So for me, in terms of what's in the box, an equal amount of stuff, it's just a draw. Both the G Pro X wireless and the V2 Pro wireless are compatible with pretty much the same things. They're both compatible with PC, both compatible with Mac, both compatible with PlayStation 4/5, and both compatible with the Switch. Neither, however, are wirelessly compatible with Xbox. That being said, the Razer does have the functionality of an aux cable, so you can in fact wire in to the back of your Xbox controller and use the audio that way. Not necessarily the way that you would want to go with this headset, but it is possible. So in terms of compatibility, the Razer takes it quite literally by the width of an aux cable. So in conclusion, I would like to stress that both the G Pro X and the V2 Pro are very, very good wireless headsets. We're just in that strange scenario where the lower priced product actually comes out on top in this instance. Given the criteria of the testing, in my opinion, the V2 Pro absolutely takes it. I appreciate there are issues of this around subjectiveness, which especially around the audio, of course it is subjective. What I like and what you like are perhaps completely different things. However, I can only do what I can and endeavour to best describe the audio as I experience it. Now, both of these products will be linked in the description below should you want to pick them up. If you do follow those links and buy a product, I do get a kickback from Amazon. I just want to make you aware of that. But thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you haven't subscribed already, why not consider doing so? If you liked what you saw, do leave a thumbs up. It helps immensely. But thank you very much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, noon, wherever you are in the world. Goodbye from me.